Everyone, we'll give a few minutes for people to show up. And while we're waiting for people to show up, I have only one agenda topic today. Which you can see there on the screen share, which is what do we need to be driving? What do we need to be doing as the TSC? I mean, obviously, if there's something a subcommittee recommends, then we should review it, discuss it, edit it, and vote to approve it to make it official. But what else? And we'll take input. This isn't just the TSC members. Everyone who's on the call should provide input. Roni, I assume you're standing in for Tahi?
Yes, I am. He was on vacation.
Okay.
So I'm replacing him.
Joe, I'm here representing VenCat today, I think.
Okay, perfect. Yep, I got you on there. All right, so I've got all right, so we have quorum. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I don't have any announcements today other than Sridhar, are we completely official now with the lab?
Payment is also gone through, so we are fully official with the lab. Yeah. So I have shared the evidence also to them. So until yesterday they were telling that, hey, we haven't received the payment yet and everything. Now I got from our finance, I got the evidence and everything and shared with their finance. So now everything is official again.
Okay. Lab account with Hurricane Electric is official. So I assume, I guess we need, I guess, Mr. Summers, we should talk with VenCat and decide what to do with the lab, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so we should what we should do is review the equipment list and what we're going to actually do with the lab, that equipment first, once it's installed.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, and Murcha would probably be.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can do VenCat, Murcha, whoever you think is right. But Keysight was kind of running point on this.
Yeah, I would say Murcha would be the one to actually talk details. I'm not sure why he's not on today, but
and again, this is for a future
yeah.
we will
definitely we talk about it internally. So
right, so we'll review.
Yeah, I see a lot of requests for quotations from Murcha over the last 2-3 days. So it's happening. Yeah, I think if he was here, he would have given a more better update. Yeah.
I think I spelled it correctly. All right, we'll rule out a climate list, and we need to define first. Okay. I would say, and equipment list and the deployment. Okay. Anything else on the lab? Any input from anyone? Requests, thoughts, anything? Let's set these for, should we set these for this review for 2 weeks from now? So that would be the,
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
all right. Discussion. All right, so 2 weeks from now will be the 31st. All right, so Mircea, can we review the, I did get your spelling right. Can we review the lab equipment list that you have for order, the deployment that we're expecting, what's up to what, and then we should define a first POC to run. Once we get, equipment spun up, we should define a first POC to run.
Yes, so there is a PR with a phase 1 bomb. And also in Slack, I put the quotes, and I'm still waiting for a quote from a refreshed quote from HP for a server.
Okay.
And I think other than that, we have all of them, and Sridhar is CC'd on all of them. Once we have all of them, probably he can start. Actually, he can start purchasing now. I mean, we have the code from Dell that can be, we need that server with the Pensando cards, and once HP one comes, we get the server with a Bluefield card and so on.
Right.
And there is a PR in OPI POC.
Okay.
report.
Yeah, put it in the chat for this meeting. Just put the PR and I'll place the link in so that I don't have to switch away and spend a bunch of time trying to find it.
Okay.
That we can do, and just paste the link in, and I'll paste it here so people can see it. So we'll do a review of everything having to do with the lab on the 31st, Mircea, if that's okay with you.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, so that's that agenda. Anything else on the lab from anyone? Okay.
We needed some answer from HE about the type of plugs they are providing us in order to correctly buy the cables for the network PDUs and so on.
That's from HE.
Yes. Now, it's not that critical. I mean, it's just a cable, which is, I don't know, $10-50, but just not to, keep everything blocked in one cable.
Reach out to Peter Melquist.
Okay, I'll ask him.
I'll paste it for you in chat directly to you, but reach out to him. Perfect. And ask him for advice. He's talked to me about OPI a couple times for HPE, and I know him for a long time. So just say that I suggested that that he might be able to help you, and he can redirect you to the right person if nothing else. He's a long time HPE guy, good guy. So
okay, thank you very much.
So I will send that to you.
Yeah, Joe, I think it's HE Hurricane Electric. We need the answer from, not HPE.
Oh, Hurricane Electric. Oh, sorry. Yeah. That's my hearing thing.
That's okay.
Okay, Hurricane Electric. Okay. Well, that you got to get help from Sridhar.
Yeah, and he put in chat in the lab forum on Slack that they're waiting for the payment to process or something like that.
Okay, I missed that. All right, cool. All right, then there's nothing to do there. All right. Anything else on the lab?
I did message both Mike Lynch. Dan, I didn't include you. I probably should have. About there was talk of Intel supplying a server and an IPU. Now that the lab's up, I had heard Mike, I think I remember you were thinking sometime around September they'd be available. So just let them know that. And then Mark from ARM, you'd mentioned a couple of ARM servers or an ARM server to go in the lab as well. So now is the time. If you guys are still up for that.
An ARM server. As soon as I get it, I'll send it that way. And then, so
Perfect.
All right, anything else? Okay, so my only other agenda topic is an open question. What do we need to be driving as the TSC? And again, you don't have to be on the TSC, you just have to be attending this call to, to speak up and provide input. And as I started, when I started, I said, we need to obviously review proposals from the working groups. And we've provided some, some direction to the working groups. But what more do we need to be doing? What different do we need to be doing? Is there anything we need to not be doing? I couldn't think of anything in that category where it's like, oh, we're doing something that's actively destructive. But I'll take any input on that. And if you don't want to speak up, if you want to do it privately, you can message me directly on Slack. You can use the TSC channel on Slack. You can email me directly. All of you have my email. So you can email me directly. You can use the TSC private list if you'd like. So if you don't feel like speaking up on this call, then input in any of the direct communication channels we have is fine. Okay, and I'm not going to offer anything for this right now on this call. I wanted to open it up to you guys rather than me trying to say, here's what we should do. And everybody's like, well, yeah, maybe we should do that, Joe, and being quiet. All right, anything at all?
Well, I think some of the things we've done is, hear about the status that the working groups are making and the progress they're making. Vote on any technical issues
Yeah, that's what we've been doing. So
yeah.
What we've been doing is we've been worrying about what I'd call superstructure stuff like the lab and policies and general policies and kind of overall mission statement. We kind of have agreement, and that's settled for the overall mission statement. We have driven closure on suggestions people had or discussions that were happening in a few cases. We've reviewed and voted on, again, proposals from the working groups, and then we've had updates from the working groups here where then there's back and forth and comments. And when there have been pull requests, again, for things we vote on, again, we've reviewed and evaluated those. So that's what we've been doing. And that should all just continue. I don't see that we're doing anything incorrect there, or anything destructive or anything like that. Those are all good activities to have. But is there something else we need to be doing to improve OPI overall beyond those things? Those things. And we're doing outreach, and we've talked at meetings, and we've presented the ideas. But again, what should we be doing new or different?
Joe, I think a roundtable from all the working groups on status update. What are the biggest risks as TSC? That list so that we can look at this level at what our biggest hurdles are to make DPUs successful in this market. and then ranking those, right? Because I suspect that some working groups will bring up issues and concerns that are higher on the priority list. And then as an organization here, our group at TSC level, we can look at those and decide how do we address to kind of help unlock those hurdles. Maybe just add to that, I'm interested in the out steps from Paul's on the bring up of an application on multiple DPU card systems. Feels like that whole area is a foundational piece that we really need to focus on before we can look at higher level solutions with DPUs. You know, that unboxing experience across multiple servers, across multiple DPU cards, all to look the same, feel the same, and be able to do.
Yeah, Mark, you're cutting in and out, but I understood, I think, what you're talking about there. So part of the F5 process that we're going through, getting an application to run on the DPUs, and Nginx application is documenting with the DPUs, no IPUs yet, but the DPUs that we have is to walk through and share our out of box, what we call the out of box experience. What, you know, we take the card out of the box. What's the experience with it? Trying to get it up and running without OPI components, and then with, and then see where we can find areas to improve.
All right, so did I capture that correctly, Mark? And Tim on the, Paul on the number 2.2?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's really small
that's
and,
good.
and
Thanks.
it's early.
Yeah,
But yes.
exactly.
Do I need to? Yeah, I always forget that because I have the large monitor and you know, my
There you go. That's perfect.
I always forget to do that because again, I work on one of these 43-inch monitors, so
Yeah.
for me everything is large. Okay, yeah, that's good. Those okay, so those are both good. Anyone else?
This is Chris. I just want to add something that sounds kind of humorous, but when I do open source projects and have an on-ramping page to get people something working, I like to refer to 5 minutes time to first dopamine for downloading the project and getting something running. And that may be ambitious for this kind of a project, but you know, the time to first dopamine is how quickly does the prospective adoptee experience some kind of feeling of satisfaction and success, right? And worked on many projects where it's hours and hours of frustration and you get nowhere. That's like time to first cortisol, right? We want dopamine, not cortisol.
Oh, I like that one.
I didn't invent it, but I like to
No,
reuse it.
yeah, no, it's a good one to bring up. Yeah, it's a good point. It's true. I have the same experience.
Yeah.
If I go to a thing and go to an open source or some project, and I go, sort of click, and either build or just use, and it just comes up. Now, to use it well and successfully may take me, a week after that, but
Yeah.
but I want the baby version.
Mhm.
up really quickly because I go, okay, now it's going, right? I want
Yeah.
I want fast hello world.
Yeah, exactly. And no, one other in parentheses, shouldn't require licensing or transactions or anything, right? Developers want to go down a path, say, hey, I'm going to explore this. Maybe I can use this thing. You don't have to fill out lots of paperwork, get approvals, blah, blah. Just,
Yeah, we don't have any of that. So
just a cautionary notice. Someone might bake that in without realizing it, or their PM may
Yeah.
bake it in, right? If they start going down a path and then say, well, you can't run this unless you have our SDK, then that's going to be a barrier, right, to adopting that version.
yeah, and I guess the other thing is we need to be able to run this in some kind of a simple software emulator, right? So somebody
Yeah.
wants to bring it up. So Stephen, I know you're not the developer group pot chair anymore, but where did you end up on thinking with or development with a software platform, where somebody can bring up a soft instance, a container that represents the DPU and at least exercise a subset of the APIs, the northbound APIs?
Yeah, I mean, in theory, that should all be possible. I mean, there is a set of Docker Compose environments which bring up a lot of the services that we have now. Mostly, it's focused around um, the provisioning side right now, but it could certainly run API services as they're implemented. I suspect that the POC repo could use a little TLC around getting up to date with the newer API work that's been happening.
Okay. I think I captured all that correctly. Anything else comes to mind on on this topic? So the new developer user on ramping page, and we need to link this to the website. So I guess that's for you, Paul, is that what we need to do is make sure that the website makes it obvious where you would go to do this. And maybe and better than a white paper, even, in terms of priorities, if there was a step-by-step guide, go here, download this, type these commands. You need one of these version, at least one of these versions of Linux. Go pull
Yeah.
this down, type these commands, and
Mhm.
now you have at least something up and running for OPI.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed a Git issue today where they were saying there's a specific version of Docker Compose that you need and those sorts of things. So that would be good. Can anyone tell me, does that exist in the Git repos that we could replicate on a web page?
I don't recall a step-by-step guide. Does anyone know different? Okay, so probably needs to, so this probably needs to be created.
Yeah.
And then, so I think along these lines, it would be valuable for each of the DPU vendors if you had a guide to bringing OPI up on your DPU.
Yes.
And so I want to hear from the vendors. Does that make sense? So in other words, if I have an IPU, or if I have a Bluefield, or if I have an Elba or a Capri or something like that, then I have a guide to bringing up OPI on that family of DPUs. Because again, part of the purpose of this is that you can run some common software across all DPUs. That will require, that basically requires integration with each of the DPUs, but that ought to be transparent. Transparent's the wrong word. That ought to be straightforward, because
Yep.
it's not really transparent. So I get I'll just use NVIDIA as an example, right? I go buy a Bluefield 2, or let's say, March of next year, I go buy a Bluefield 3, and I'm like, oh yeah, I like this idea of common open source. And I take that Bluefield 3 and I go, I want to run OPI on it. Okay, so I go to the OPI site, we bring up the Docker, and you're like, oh, okay, that has APIs that I care about and I like. Now, I want to run that actually on my Bluefield 3. So a guide to how to run OPI on each of the vendors' DPUs would be valuable. And again, if any of the startups here, are releasing DPUs for the first time, that can be another way to say, yeah, you can run it on our stuff as well. And here, here's how you do it. But because again, I think what we have to do is create a sort of a positive feedback loop on making things real. And I think if we spend 3 months defining a big first release, that's not as organic as, look, here's how you get stuff running, go run it, get people to run it. Does that make sense, or am I off base? That wrong? Kind of
So
wrong.
are you talking about a cookbook, Joe, where there's like a recipe for each DPU?
Yeah, basically a recipe for the DPU.
The
So-
OPI recipe.
Yeah, how do you bring up OPI components on each family of DPUs, as opposed to the one where you just go to the website and you want to just see it go. You want to make something go, which would be Docker Compose and some software.
But unlike some projects, right, we don't just have an image that you download and install. It is more like a recipe, and you take some of our components and some of your components and the DPU and their vendors' components and put them together. And so the recipe is a guide on what components you need and how they fit together.
Yep.
So that actually could be the most valuable thing we could produce in the next 3 to 6 months.
Lad's got his hand up.
Yeah, go ahead, Alon. You can just speak up.
Guys, I think that we should think about using the lab to somewhat of a different mindset. Meaning, if we have a lab and we have all the partners there, hopefully we'll get an IPU there soon. Why not turn it into client-facing curated labs? Meaning we invite people, maybe with our guidance, maybe without, to try it out, where inside our lab, they get access to the lab. Inside the lab, they can try out everything that we've already done. And they can try it out on a Marvell or an NVIDIA or an IPU and just see it work and try some of the commands themselves. So it shortens the process in my mind to showing something real, which is very important in the way I see it. Because currently, I think I shared this before, when I go out now as the use case group and I try to talk to clients, they're saying, yeah, you guys have been around for a while. What have you done? Show us something that you have done. So I send them the materials that we have, on the website and the work that we've done, and then they say, okay, I want to see a POC, show me a POC. And I don't have that. So I'm thinking if we had curated labs in the lab environment that we have, I could go in and say, hey, NTT or hey, whomever, come and see what we've done with all of the partners. It's already running. We have examples of it. Example number 1, Nginx, example number 2, NVMe. Just show it to them working in our environment, meaning I'm not putting any weight on them, because we know what happens when you tell a client, yeah, go buy a DPU or an IPU, go download this, go download that, find space in your lab. It will take time. If we can show them that we have it running and all they have to do is copy our quote unquote recipe, and they'll have the same, I think it speaks volumes to the realness and the maturity.
Mhm.
So that's what I would suggest.
Right, and that's not mutually exclusive. That's not mutually exclusive with a guide/recipe for each thing.
Again, I'm not talking about a guide. I'm talking about a curated lab where you can see
No,
the stuff being built and working.
I understand. That's why I put that as number 4, separate from number 3. But again, if somebody, so there's 2 different things. So I agree with you on that would be is another useful thing, but that's different than basically a recipe guide for bringing up OPI on each family of DPUs.
It is different, and I'll tell you why. I don't think if we put out a recipe, I don't think we can trust clients to go ahead and follow that recipe. I think that just like any other recipe, the proof is in the pudding. You need to show them that it's tasty, and then they'll want to make it in their own kitchen.
Yeah, that's why that's why I have using the lab for standing, POC for showcasing, OPI operation and value. And once they do that, then they'll go, okay, so I'm buying, okay, Alad, you convinced me. I'm going to buy, 6 Bluefield 3s, and I want to run OPI components on them, plus additional components, which, I have, and, I work with you on. And they're like, but I want these OPI components. So now you're like, oh, okay, here's the guide for bringing it up. And it's straightforward, right? Here's how you do it on Bluefield 3. Here's the Bluefield 3 guide, which is published as part of OPI. Because we don't have to be, vendor neutral in that we say, yeah, we just do vague DPU general stuff. And no, we should have guides for all the DPUs. And again, it should be voluntary, but I don't see why you wouldn't want to expand your potential user base for those potential users who strongly prefer things to be as open as possible, right?
So I would say this, Joe. On the one hand, every client I spoke to, almost every client said they want it to be open. They want multi-vendor, right? And they want to see multi-vendor tools. On the other hand, if I go, and I'm being very open here, if I go into NVIDIA now and I tell them, okay, let's build an OPI-based guide, they'll tell me, what does OPI have that will trigger interest when we do this? And my answer is not great at this point. It might be great in 6 months, but not right now.
Yeah, and I'll be completely open. That's a self-defeating answer, because again, if you said, hey, we support, even just OTel through OPI and the storage API. So say you said, hey, we start with OTel and storage APIs. Here's how you get those up and running. Here's what they do for you. And everyone does that. Then I believe it creates one of these, virtuous cycles or positive feedback loop, depending on how you want to say it. Although it's a fair point. Okay, Stephen, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, I put in the chat a link to the POC group lab goals and requirements document, which does have the roadmap for the usage of the lab. And I think that what Elad is asking for would fit under the phase 3 section of that. So that is in the roadmap.
Excellent. So I'll bring that up in a second.
We prioritized the initial lab usage around getting CI/CD pipelines running on real hardware.
Right. So I'll convert those to proper, right, that's a fair point. Others? I mean, does this discussion not make sense to anyone?
No, I think that the discussion, it makes sense to me. I would think, I like what a lot is saying, that we need a way that people can use OPI easily on real hardware and see it working. The question comes, are we today? I don't think the lab's ready for that. I mean, obviously we can't even ship things there and know how to plug it in, but give it a month or two to settle down. And I think we could revisit, are we ready to order the next batch of hardware? Do we get the budget from to do that, to order another full set of systems and install them to do that function? So I would think we're within a month or two of being able to do that.
Okay.
Because I'm pretty certain that we have the funds to do that. It just hasn't been budgeted by the board yet.
Yeah, and I think it'd be great if you wrote down your thoughts, right? Even just an outline, just put your thoughts down in a markdown file, and we can add that to the to the lab operations and lab policies and lab statement, right? We can explain the value of what you're talking about, and then actually pick what that looks like, right? Because to execute what you're talking about, we're going to have to go pick what gets run, and then that goes hand in hand with kind of the new developer on-ramping page. So if you wanted to write up stuff a lot, I think that would be great. Again, just your thoughts about here's the way, here's how to put the lab to use as a first step, right? And if it catches on, there's lots of things you could do, but your first step is not a bad idea. So put that on paper. That
Okay.
Could you rephrase again, Joe, what that first step is?
It's number 4 on the screen. Use lab for standing, POC for showcasing OPI operation and value to potential users. In other words, so let's say we took the F5 demo. It has a recipe for bringing it up, and you could say, hey, here it is running in the OPI lab, and here's the recipe for bringing it up so you could replicate this, right? Because you
and the potential customer might say, okay, I see that. It'll take me months to get everything together to reproduce that in my own lab. Can I rebuild that POC myself following your instructions to prove to myself that it works?
Right, but either emulated or potentially in the OPI lab hardware, although that starts to require, again, permissions and all kind of stuff, but
Yeah, I mean, that next step is where it gets messy. I do agree standing POCs that they can go watch operating and look at. I just see where there might be some doubt that we really built the POC using the recipe that we're showing them. But I guess trust and faith have to come in somewhere. Right?
that's right. Well, so again, you show them the POC running, you say, here's the here's the guide to doing the POC, and then we should have someone who didn't write the guide and didn't bring it up the first time follow the process in the lab. In other words, one of us should go try to do it.
Right. Or we even build a video of us doing it and then they can come watch the video.
Even that, right, that's actually a good idea. Video. Actually, I don't learn that way, but a lot of people learn that way,
Yeah, it's kind of like the install POC video, right? So how did I install it to get to the running POC?
right. And again, Dan, if we had a equivalent thing for cross-link and equivalent thing for IPDK, I think that would be useful, in that IPDK is built on OPI components, and then in that we can highlight here the OPI components used by IPDK, and here's how you bring that up for yourself. Again, all of these things in parallel make OPI more useful and relevant to people. And again, this is accomplishing the goal of my discussion, by the way, but that's that's another thing. And you may already have a version of that, but a version that can be done within the OPI lab, I think would be valuable, especially kind of the end of the year when we get IPU installed in the lab.
Yeah, definitely. That's in the plan.
Right. Anyone else? Okay. All right. Any other ideas? So these were all good so far. Anything else?
It might be worthwhile for the TSC to try to reach out to some users. We've done that in the past, but that was 6-9 months ago, to see if is OPI getting to the point of usability for them, and if not, what's missing, as well as to get some experience, some reports on their own experiences even without OPI. How what are the challenges they're seeing with their DPU deployments? I don't think anyone was really there a year ago to do that. Maybe they're still not, but we could at least ask around to see if a Verizon or a Comcast or Bell South or somebody is willing to come in and share with us a little bit what their experience has been. That would be very helpful to the TSC and maybe helpful to that consumer as well. The other thought I had, Joe, is we don't really have a scoring mechanism for ourselves where we can, quarterly or something, look back across what we're doing. How have we done? What's working? What's not working? I don't know what I'm phrasing this right, but it's like if you said, hey, there's these 10 macro elements that we think we need in the end. We're working on 4 of them, and we're on phase 1 of this and phase 2 of that, and we're stuck on this other one, and we haven't even started these other 6. And it's clear that if we don't have at least 8 of them, we don't have a truly usable solution. We don't sort of have that critical look back at ourselves to say, among all the minutia, let's come up to 10,000 feet and see what we're really accomplishing here. So to summarize that, I think we need a way of self-scoring our project. And that's something the TSC should work on.
All right. Yeah, that's a fair idea. All right, what else? All right, so this is not a bad list.
I wanted to ask Paul whether there's anything on the outreach side where the TSC is not being helpful enough or contributing enough. Any thoughts on that, Paul?
Sure, I think we'd always like a little more assistance vetting the stuff that we're putting out there. I think there are higher priorities than a lot of that right now. I mean, for OPI in general. One of the things we're working on, Joe, you touched on it, is a white paper. I agree, maybe the step-by-step guide is more important, but the white paper where we have a draft of one of the working group topics. We're going to review that as a group in the outreach committee meeting this week. And then I'd like to bring it back to this group and to that working group. I think it's the API group where we're starting, and have them vet what we've written and make sure that it's up to date. So that sort of thing would be.
When do you
very
want?
helpful.
Yeah, so what you should do is take the white paper. Once you have the white paper to review, put it as an official request.
Yes.
View the technical content of the white paper.
Yep. So we're not quite ready to do that, but I think that would be a very helpful thing. I had originally asked, how can we get the work groups to write that, to write the copy that they wanted, but there was some pushback there. So we're taking a different approach. Sridhar is doing the first draft, and then as a group, we're reviewing that, and then we'll bring it back to make sure that we got it right.
Yeah, I think it's completely appropriate and necessary for the TSC to review that white paper for especially on the technical content accuracy, and make sure we're not misleading or stating anything incorrect. Okay, so that I have that. And when would you expect that? Like
the first one, the API group, I hope to have an outreach committee, an outreach working group approved draft that we could bring to either the API working group or to the TSC and have you look at it. We're going to do that on Tuesday. So maybe next week we could.
Okay, yeah, if you have it next week, then so remember, I'm not going to be here next week.
Oh, that's right.
I'm traveling. Yeah. So Tim, you'll run the meeting. And you could do first review on the 24th.
Okay, I'll work with Tim, and if we're ready, we'll put it on the agenda.
Yeah. All right. Any other future agenda topics? All right. Anyways, yeah, these were all good suggestions. So let's so if there's nothing else, I'll close the call. So I'll give people 30 seconds to speak up or raise their hand if they want. You can just speak up.
Do you have anything pending for me for next week, Joe? If so, just send me a Slack message.
I mean, again, I don't have anything explicit pending. If you want to pull something from this list and go through that, that's fine.
Yeah, maybe that's what we'll do, is lean into a couple of topics from this list we created today.
Okay. Anyone else? All right, thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Joe.
Bye-bye.